Bowling with the Theft.
I encourage you to get fast.
Your bowling stories.
All things the game of bowling.
Every week.
Helping bowlers.
The hand collapses down.
Live.
And I'm going to try to bowl the best I can.
2,000 subscribers. 2,000 subscribers.
I want to challenge Chad Nelson.
Tom Corbett.
Jason Belmonte.
Let's do this. This is Bowling with the Pfaff.
And a happy Wednesday evening to all of you. Welcome to Bowling with the Pfaff, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. It is Big Content Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed the next chapter, our interview with Trey Henriksmeyer. It's on the channel. You can see it anytime. He is off in Wichita looking to write that next big chapter in his bowling story. It's been great to follow his progress, and I hope you'll give the interview a watch. It's good stuff that he has to say, and best of luck to him as he starts his intercollegiate career in really one of the better spots to do that kind of thing in Wichita, Kansas. So we'll be interested to see how he turns out as a collegiate bowler. Well, the PWBA Tour trials are going on right now. Boy, what a grind. They are in Algonquin, Illinois at Bolero Randall Road. And at the present time, you've got Hayden Stipich leading the pack, 45-34, which is plus 734, an average of 238 and 6/10. He's just ahead of Tim Foy Jr., Anthony Nyer ahead of him, Pete Virgos in fourth, and look at this, Tim Cagle II in fifth. If you haven't seen Tim Cagle throw a bowling ball, you really should. There's actually a short on this page of him throwing a couple shots in the Masters. He probably does it just a little bit different than most, but obviously effective because he's in the top five. Right now, about 90 bowlers are competing. They go to 4 different centers over the course of the week. They're all in Chicagoland. They'll complete a total of 48 games, and after 48, that's it. The top 12 are exempt next year, and the rest, thanks for playing. So it's an interesting format, and we will see who comes out of that. Certainly, best of luck to those folks who are going through that grind. It's a lot of games, not a lot of days, and certainly a lot on the line for the next PWBA Tour season. Well, congrats to Team USA's Brianna Clemmer and 2024 PWBA Rookie of the Year and her teammate on Team USA, Crystal Elliott. The pair won a silver medal today in elite doubles at the 2024 Pan Am Bowling Championships in Reno, Nevada. Clemmer and Elliott put up 26-01 for 6 games. The gold medalists were Team Guatemala. It was Sofia Rodriguez and Ana Morales taking gold, just 12 pins better than Team USA in that one. The seniors and super seniors in elite doubles are this afternoon. This is, of course, Pacific time as we're in Reno, Nevada. And elite men start up at 8 p.m. Wisconsin time. So it'll be interesting to see who medals in that. Of course, John Janowitz out there as one of the seniors for Team USA. Man, has he had a year. So we'll see if he can continue that momentum into the Pan Am Games. Derek Michaud joining us live. What's up, man? How you doing? Very good, Derek. Thank you so much. Thanks for the happy birthday wishes and all that good stuff. And hope you're enjoying this late August week. Man, it's weird to say that, but that's kind of where we're at, right now. Hey, if you're enjoying the content, feel free to check out our official merch store. It's etsy.com/shop/bowlingwiththepfaffco. Got a couple different varieties of t-shirts and hoodies, and that again does support the channel and everything I do to create bowling content. And speaking of supporting the channel, here's a word from our sponsor.
Raise your snack standards. Chip Magnet Salsa.
Yeah, you got to raise your snack standards. And the best way to do it is with Chip Magnet. You can try that cilantro lime, wildly delicious, mango habanero, and a lot of other different flavors. They're based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They distribute to stores in more than 38 states and Canada. And if you're sitting in Lincoln, Nebraska right now, you can find Chip Magnet at your local Hy-Vee store, or you can go online to chipmagnetsalsa.com and enter this promo code at checkout, BWTF2024. You get 25% off your purchase of $30 or more, and there is no limit on that bad boy. So stock up. Football season's coming up. What better way to start off, a nice Sunday afternoon of watching the games than a little chip magnet salsa with your favorite tortilla chips. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards, and a big fat thank you to Chip Magnet Salsa for supporting Bowling with the FEF. Well, our guest tonight is a collegiate national champion. She is a 3-time PWBA Tour champion, and nowadays she is back at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, helping to coach the current Husker women to glory as the march to a championship begins in earnest this fall. It'll be here before you know it. Julia Bond is originally from the Chicagoland area, and she is joining us on a show that we are calling Finding the Way to Inner Peace. Julia, welcome to Bowling with the FEF.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's certainly my pleasure, and glad you could make it tonight. So I want to talk about this video that you put out on Instagram to start things out. This was, I want to say, about a week ago. And really, being a content creator, I mean, we all put a lot of thought into videos we create, no matter whether it's a live interview like this or something recorded. What was your thought process? Because I can tell this was kind of deep material before you set up the camera and let her rip.
Right. Like, my thought behind that video was I just wanted to be honest. And that was like my goal. And I feel like I don't want to say not a lot of opportunities for us to be honest and authentic, but there's just been a lot of things going on in my brain. And just with bowling, like, it's stressful. I feel like we've all had a moment in our bowling journey where it just feels hard and overwhelming. And sometimes it feels so lonely to be going through those struggles. And I know we all go through them, but just, at least for me, I internalize a lot. Sometimes things get stuck up here and they just ruminate and they swirl around. And so the reason I wanted to make that video was to kind of get it out there and to, again, be honest with where I currently was as a bowler. And, the season was hard for me. Like, it wasn't a bad season, but just mentally and emotionally, we all have expectations. My expectations are, up here, and sometimes they don't go as planned. And sometimes it's hard to manage it when you feel like you're not performing to how you believe that you can. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity to just let people know, like, hey, this is hard and I'm struggling, and to essentially kind of say that it's okay to struggle and to talk about these things. And social media is great to be able to talk about the positive things, to share things, to build community. But I think an important part of building community is to, again, be honest about the journey. There's going to be times where it's hard and it's not going to be fun. And so I just, like I said, I just wanted to just be open about that, and maybe not necessarily inspire, but just kind of maybe inspire somebody to open that dialogue with me, with a friend, with anybody, if they're going through something similar, and just to kind of offer a different perspective of tour life, because it can be hard. It can be a grind.
Yeah. It was, for those of you who haven't seen it, and the link is in the description, basically kind of a rundown of the latter parts of this season and, how it made you feel, and some of the things that, maybe, I don't know, is regret too strong a word?
No, I think there is a little bit of regret. Like, when you look back at things and just realizing, man, I could have done something different, or I could have done something sooner, or opened up, talked, like it could be anything, and I think regret works, maybe even a little bit of grief, thinking about how, trying to find the right words, but you're kind of grieving a career or parts of your life where you're just, man, I wish I did something different. And knowing that you could have done something different, and it just took you a while, like, there's acceptance in that and having to be okay with that. But yeah, there is a little bit of regret and grief and kind of those strong emotions involved. I would agree with that.
Yeah. You not only are a graduate of Nebraska, but you also had a lot of success early on. And I thought to myself, let's see if I can find somebody who kind of has that template going in their own life. And I really didn't have to look much farther than your freshman year roster, because Liz Culkin has had a similar career. When I showed her that video, she told me that she found it to be very real. She found it to be authentic and something that takes a lot of courage to post. So I said, well, what was your response to that? And she told me that Julia has always had a lot of success in bowling. She may feel as if she's going through a lull in her career and maybe needs to evaluate how to push herself over. She said that I think every athlete copes differently with their expectations and season evaluation. It's all about how you feel you did compared to your standards. And that I did the very same thing after my first few seasons on tour. She's a great player, and I have no doubt her success in the future will come, as she's always implicated changes in the next chapter of her bowling career and has been successful on many levels because of it. Did she hit the nail on the head with that?
Yeah, yes, exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. I feel like a lot of us have gone through similar things, and she's correct. It looks different for other people. Like, we're all on different timelines, and it's so easy, again, with social media to essentially compare. Like, some of us, again, me, like what you just said, some of us reach success maybe a little bit earlier and others are a little bit later. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong. Like, we're all on our own timeline, but it's so easy to compare about who's doing good now or before and stuff like that. And so I think Liz nailed it, like in every part, like, me trying to figure out ways to get over that lull, like she's talking about. And again, being able to find success, in this next chapter. And I think that's a good way to describe it, is a chapter. I feel like our life is literally made up of chapters. Just things change. Like, we get new jobs, we might lose jobs, relationships, families, we get married, have kids, things like that. And I think sometimes we forget, or maybe other people forget, fans, not to like point fingers, but it's just like, we're human beings too.
Yeah.
Like, we go through things the same way you do. It's just, again, like, we're everyday people that are going through this life the same way everybody else is. And we're also trying to compete at the highest level. And sometimes just we go through chapters that are just a little bit, just we're kind of in a valley. We can't always be in a peak, and that's just not how life works. Sometimes we have to live in this valley for a little bit. And so, but yeah, I think Liz nailed it. I think she described that struggle very well.
Yeah. You brought up a good point, because that was something I was going to say. I thought that video really humanized you, especially for people who aren't familiar with maybe your background, or even how you did on tour this year. I think it did a good job of that. Now, I have to ask, because in that video, you mentioned people that you maybe weren't necessarily the nicest to, and others who you said were in your corner. Can you elaborate on who those people are and maybe what those circumstances were?
As far as like people in my life that have been really in my corner and supportive, like, obviously that's my parents. Like, my parents have always backed me up and have always been there for me. Same thing with like my coach, William Clark. Like, he's like, outside of my parents, he's one of the first people that, I don't want to say like truly believed in me, but where I truly believed that he believed in me and that I could have a successful career and go to any college that I want, and kind of instilled, kind of my first bits of like confidence, stuff like that. And there's been women on tour that have been very supportive, like Stephanie Zavala. Like, we're really good friends, and she's been very supportive and roots for me, and vice versa. But to kind of go into your question, like, there's been times where just, again, getting in my own head, there's times where I didn't feel like I was being a very good roommate or being a very good like travel person. Sometimes I would isolate, and I feel like I wasn't being supportive or being there for her like the best way that I knew how. And so, and we talked about it, like, and she's giving me space, and, I thanked her, because it might sound like counterintuitive to, if you're struggling to ask for space, but I think that's been part of my journey, is kind of realizing, what do I need? And just with everything like it's stressful. I'm the type of person that likes to decompress. Like after bowling, like go back, chill, get something to eat. And not that I don't like company and not that I don't like companionship, but I've kind of discovering about myself that I like being able to like turn the brain off. And for me, not that I can't do that with friends or like, you know, who I'm rooming with, but I found that even with people around, I felt like I still couldn't turn off.
Sure.
If that makes sense. And so nobody did anything wrong. Nobody like, it was nothing like that, but that's kind of me figuring out as an athlete, you know, what do I need?
Yeah.
And so, and stuff like that. And just like my fellow just bowlers on tour, I just felt like I stopped saying hi to people. I don't know what it was. Like I took a step back and I'm just like, I'm not talking to people. I'm not saying hi. I'm not interacting the way that like I want to. I found myself just kind of like head down. Like I wasn't even looking at people like in the eye. Like I was that like in my brain and struggling like with my self-confidence that I found myself again not interacting with these women who like I've known for a long time and who are great and are, you know, could be great friends. And I just wasn't allowing myself to open up that way. And I think that's another reason like wanting to post that video is to just not make excuses, but it's just like, hey, like this is something that I'm going through. And again, opening that dialogue. And so maybe that's a way I can connect with more women on tour, be like, hey, we can talk about these things and it's okay. But that's how, from my perspective, where I thought I wasn't being a very good friend and where I was struggling. And I don't know, just the language I was talking about myself and like other people, like it wasn't bad, but I just had a lot of resentment and like anger with like my performance and like other people. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, you should be happy. You should be happy for like other people and supportive. And I just found myself in this weird headspace, and it's kind of embarrassing to say it out loud because I'm sorry. It's just like, I don't want to admit like these things, but I have to. It's just like, I was catching myself in these thought processes that weren't good for me. They weren't good for other people, my relationships. And so I wanted to stop that cycle. And so that's where I found myself. I was like, I can't stay in this place. I can't keep being this person. And so that's kind of been a little bit of a catalyst when I caught myself in that place. And I was like, I got to get out. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. And I think the universal truth in this is that we all kind of go through something like that a little differently. It takes a different path to get to where you want to be. Now, that being said, since one size does not fit all, is there a teachable moment in this for the students that you coach?
Oh, yeah, no, yes, 100%. Like, just, I think it's more than just like confidence, but again, like security. And again, the title of the segment, Inner Peace. You know, it takes time. It's something that you have to cultivate. And, you know, we talked about your career is not going to be this the whole time. There's going to be those peaks and valleys. And so, and that's something that we preach to the girls already is, you know, again, that mental toughness and taking care of yourself and taking care of others. But again, to kind of see me go through it in real time, because it's one thing for me to say these things, but if I'm winning titles like every year, then it's just like, well, do you really know?
Yeah.
Do you really know the struggle? And so it's just, I think it teaches me compassion, you know, self-compassion. And I think that's, again, ultimately, I think kind of the big lesson is being able to be self-compassionate with yourself in these moments and being to pass it on to the girls. And that's something, you know, I because of the thoughts and feelings that I was having, like I do see a therapist now. That's been a new, you know, develop in my life to try to get to a better place. And she challenged me with being more self-compassionate with myself. And I think that's a fabulous lesson for anybody, is that when you do run into disappointment, or again, like what I said, or what Liz said, when you're talking about expectations and you don't reach them, being more self-compassionate with yourselves. And I think that's a lesson that can go with you through college and even beyond college, really, in any type of facet in your life. So at least that's what I hope to get out of this, and to hopefully be better at teaching the girls, is to kind of manage those struggles and getting to a place of more inner peace and self-compassion.
Yeah. Well, like I said to you in Messenger, kudos, on putting that out there. And, it is admirable. I mean, a lot of people end up keeping it bottled up. They, they kind of follow the stigma about therapy. And the truth is, it's okay. We all have our struggles, and, we find our way through it. If that's therapy, that's great. There's nothing wrong with any of that, the highs and lows. And, if you felt there was a low this last season, guess what? Maybe there's a high coming up in 2025. So we'll watch for that.
Right.
BSJ83 wants to know if you live in Lincoln year round.
I do. Lincoln is my home. My license says Nebraska on it. I am a Nebraska resident. And so, yeah, I do live in Lincoln year round, and I do a lot of traveling. Obviously, with the tour, there's about 3 months essentially out of the year where I'm not here. It feels like it goes in like 20, not quite a month, but about a little over 20 days where I'm not in Lincoln at a time. And so what's been really nice about this year in particular is a lot of the tour has been in the Midwest. And so I am from Illinois. And so between a couple of stops, I've been able to actually go home to my parents' house in Aurora. And so I think I was away from Lincoln a little bit longer than I normally would, because again, I went home and spent time with my parents. But Lincoln is my home base. When I'm not on tour, I come back to Lincoln. Lincoln is my home, and I refer to it as my home. And so yeah, this is where I'm at.
Good place to be. Yeah. So here's something a little lighter. Do you remember a couple years ago going on a live stream called The Bowlers Show?
Maybe.
Okay. I'll try and refresh your memory.
Yes, please do.
So I had a gentleman on the show because we've got a catalog now built up of 175 episodes. There's a lot to pull from. And about 2 years ago, I had a gentleman named Luke Rosedal on. You might know him for his ball reviews. So he's telling me about how he was all nervous because he's a huge fan of Verity Crawley, and she came on the show, and he was all nervous about it. So then he goes on to say, and then you came on, a couple months, I think it was, before he came on this show. And this is what he had to say about it.
I'm a really big fan of Julia Bond too. And we had her on the Bowlers Show a couple months ago. And that's one of those things where he sent me the list. It was like, okay, we got so-and-so. And I read Julia, and I'm like, oh, a little pitter patter. Like, I'm going to be ready to go. I'm not going to be this nervous kind of stuttery, cringy person. I'm going to be this just have fun. Just have they're regular people too. First impressions are first impressions, and I'm not going to ruin this one for a change. And then she gets to talking, and then she's like, oh, by the way, I'm a little starstruck. We watch your videos, and when we're because she's an assistant coach up at Nebraska, and she's like, with me and the coach, and where we're doing arsenals for the kids, we kind of we watch your videos, and you explain things so well. And I'm like, oh, good. Everything, my mind went blank and everything went out the window. And I'm like, I'm glad I got something up here on the screen. So I'm just going to read a bunch of nonsense and ramble until Dave saves me.
Kind of funny that
I know. Yes, I remember that. Yeah. Pitter patter. And we still do that. Like, even to this day, like, we still listen to Luke's videos, like him and his wife. Like, we love that content. And, it makes my heart happy that I see other people on social media, like, recommend his videos, or even like on Reddit. People are asking like, hey, who's a good person to look at for videos? And Luke is always recommended. And it makes my heart happy to see somebody who puts in a lot of work and a lot of effort into their content and what they're doing. And it just makes me really happy to see that he's, again, I think, getting the attention that he deserves. It's really good stuff.
Absolutely. He's got a great head on his shoulders. And, through the journey that we all take in this video creation, kind of taught himself how to do it. Man, did he get good. But I thought that was funny because, I remembered him mentioning you, but it took rewatching it to find that little nugget. So I'm glad I did. Let's kind of get into your bowling story. Your bios say you're from Aurora, Illinois. Is that where you were born and raised?
I was born in LaGrange, Illinois, so more kind of towards like the Chicagoland area. So I was born in LaGrange, and then we lived in Cicero for a little bit, so still Chicagoland area, and then we moved to Berwyn for a few years. So we were in Berwyn from when I was about 4 to 11.
Okay,
I would say, so a good chunk of my life, and then we moved out to the suburbs when I was 11 to Aurora. And so now for a majority of my life, from 11 to when, essentially I moved out of my parents' house. So how old was I? 25, 24 is, and so I would say I definitely I grew up in Aurora is what I would say. So it's definitely, that's what I consider, Lincoln is home, but Aurora, I would say, is definitely my hometown.
Okay. How many times have you seen the movie Wayne's World?
All the time. Like it's one of those movies where like anytime it's on TV, like I have to watch it, or there's like certain parts that I have to watch it. And so just again, it looks nothing like Aurora. Aurora is not. But again, it's a movie. It's fiction. We love it. It's fun. But like I love that part. And so there's just certain things about that movie. Like one of my favorite scenes, and I still do it, is in the diner scene where Garth and it's that girl that he has a crush on, and like Jimi Hendrix.
Yep.
Foxy comes on, and just
Foxy
like
lady.
the dance. Like every time the song comes on, I'm just like, so it's a great movie. I love it. So the fact that it gives like a nod to Aurora, and even though Aurora looks nothing like that, I think it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, no, it's a classic. It's a great film. All right, so through all this, I haven't even kind of cut to the core of how you started bowling. Was that in Aurora, or was that before all that?
Yep, that was in Aurora. And so prior to moving out to the burbs, bowling was more just a birthday party thing. I thought and not even that often. I think there was only like a couple birthday parties that I attended that were like at bowling alleys. And again, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I thought it was special, glow in the dark. Like I just thought it was the coolest thing. And so, but when we moved to Aurora, my dad's friends at work decided to join the league, and they asked my dad if he wanted to be the sub. So not even to be a member, just like a backup, I guess. And so something about like my dad, and something that I really appreciate my dad, and I think I've also developed this personality trait, is that my dad, if he decides to do something, he's invested. Like he is going to research, he's going to make sure that he has all the things, he knows as much as he can, and he's going to practice. Like if he's going to agree to do this and make a commitment, and when the call comes out and be like, Dan, you're up, like he wants to contribute. Like, he wants to make sure that he's prepared. And so while preparing, he got his own shoes, got his own equipment. I would go with him to the bowling alley and watch him practice and, throw some shots myself. But I just wanted to spend time with my dad. I just thought it was the coolest thing to be able to go to bowling alleys. And over time, I'd be practicing with him, or just kind of chucking balls, really. He would point to people like that were, practicing. He's like, hey, you see how they're pushing away like this, or see how just their arms doing that, and just kind of essentially just mimicking the best that I could, like people's forms, and, kind of getting a feel for what that is, because, between all of us, I think bowling is not necessarily natural. Like to walk with a ball, like your hand physically in a ball and those steps. But yeah, they say it's like walking, but it's not really like walking. So I think it's not natural, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And so just mimicking that. And so the man who ran the pro shop, it's Parkside Lanes in Aurora, and the pro shop operator, Rich Thornton, was like, hey, I've noticed you and your daughter are here very often. She seems to really enjoy, being here with you and bowling. Like, is she interested in lessons? Like, I would love to be a part of that. And so my dad looked at me and he's like, do you want to learn how to bowl? And I was just like, yeah, sure. Why not? Like, I think it's the greatest thing. And so I started taking lessons, and I just kind of naturally picked it up and just never looked back.
Yeah. I'm assuming through that you end up in some kind of junior program. And, what was the scene like at Parkside or in the centers in that area?
So I'm a little biased because it's where I started, but I think the talent in Illinois, or the bowling scene in Illinois in general, is very competitive and just good. Yeah. And so the youth scene, like I joined the Saturday morning youth league. I feel like, as we all do, when we first start out, and just kind of was competitive right away. Like, and that's kind of where I've always been. Like I started off kind of already doing competitive stuff, and that just came natural to me. And so, and everybody around me, like I said, I think Illinois just has a very competitive youth scene, just bowling scene in general. And so I thought, I think that pushed me just to see all the kids, and I thought they were great. Like, I thought they were good, and I wanted to be, just like them. And so I think they really pushed me. And I think that's why I progressed the way that I did. Like, looking back, I remember parents or the way that my parents tell the story is that other parents would come up and be like, oh, like, how long has your daughter been bowling? Like, a couple of years. Is like, nah, she started like 5 months ago. And like, people being shocked. And not that I was like some prodigy or that I was super talented, but I think the community and just the people that I got to observe and bowl with, I just think pushed me. And I progressed faster just because of the people around me personally.
Yeah. Did you participate in any kind of tournament tour or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember how old I was. I bowled in high school, but leading up to middle school, high school, I was a part of when I started, they were called ISYL. So the Illinois State Youth League, I think is what the acronym is. Now it's ISST. And Pat, and I should tell her this more often. I remember when I told her, but Patty Maurman is probably like the reason I am who I am. She provided tournaments all over in Illinois and scholarships, and just provided a space for me to compete and again provide for a bunch of kids that were I thought really talented, and just gave us a place to compete and push each other. And I truly think that's why you see a lot of great bowlers come out of Illinois, because of people like Patty. I think Patty's been like, I'm so sorry that I don't know the official title, but Patty's been like a USBC Volunteer of the Year. Like, and that's just who she is. Like, she dedicates her life to youth bowling, and I'm a part of that. Like, I don't think I really hit my stride until like I won junior gold. I thought like making junior team that first year, or the first time, I think was kind of where I got into another level of like my bowling career and confidence. And I really have Patty to thank for that, for helping me get my spot and essentially preparing me. Because like junior gold is a totally different animal, even when I bowled in it. And then like now, like it's changed. And so, but I think, tours like Patty's have, really shaped me as a youth bowler and put me in a position to succeed. Yeah. So yeah, I should tell her more often. I should message her after this and be like, Patty, everything I have is because of you. I think you're one of the people that really started it all. And she continues to do it to this day. And so she's great. Illinois youth is very fortunate to have someone like Patty advocate for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell me about that junior gold journey, because you got to understand, I'm coming from a place where I went adult in 98, which was the first year of junior gold. So I never really had that. I mean, we had tournament tours in the states that I lived in, but, never that junior gold experience. And it seems like, there are a lot of positives, maybe some negatives to it, but I mean, if you're winning the whole thing, that's a big positive.
Right. So my junior gold experience, and you'll have to forgive me because again, now even for me, I feel like it was forever ago. So sure. Some things like blur together. Because like when I did junior gold, I was bowling with college kids. And so I don't remember exactly how old I was when I did my first junior gold. I think I probably was like 14, 15, 16, stuff like that. And when I was doing it, I think it was just like maybe U20. And I don't want to say like that's it, but there was only like 2 divisions. You were either like in the U20 or you were in the U whatever. Like, and I just remember I was always bowling with college kids. And so I got my butt kicked very often in those early years. That's just how it was. And then what I find the most interesting about my story is that the year that I won junior gold was the first time I made the cut. Up until 2013, I'd never made the first cut. Oh. And so, and in those times, you know, kind of go through a junior gold, go back, talk to my coach, like, what could we have done differently? What could we have done better? Like, and him as a coach, like, again, because like William, like I think a few people have seen William or know who he is, my coach. Yeah. He is the Puma guy, as people know him. He's always dressed in his shoes, match the pants, match the belt, match the shirt, stuff like that. And so when I was going through junior gold, I wasn't William's like only student, but we were kind of going through this like player coaching journey like together. And so he was learning too about what is it like to be a coach, coaching someone through junior gold. Like again, there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of people. And so we were essentially learning the process together. And so we would come back, reconvene, you know, what do you think? What do I think? How can we both be better? And so, you know, the first couple of years, that's what it was like. It was a lot of kind of going back to the drawing board type of things. But in 2013, I think we finally, like, again, in hindsight, I think we finally figured out, like, how do we work and, like, what do we need to do to prepare for junior gold? And so, like I said, the year that I won, that's the first time I made the first cut. And I was like, okay, cool. Yay. We made the first cut. Yeah. And then I made the second cut. And I was like, oh, great. This is going well. And then again, going through the advancers, and then I found myself in the bracket. And then before I knew it, I was undefeated through the bracket. And then in the finals, I had to play Sarah Loker, who is now, you know, Sarah Crowell. And she's in college. Like that's the thing. Like I was 2013. How old was I? I was a junior. I was going into my senior year. And I was, again, just starting to talk to colleges, you know. I was just learning the process. And then here I am playing against someone who is in college. Yeah. And I ended up winning. And like I said, that's, you know, never looking back, like and then what I tell like kids, easy is not the right word, but once you break past whatever barrier you feel like you're at or whatever level, like once, especially at junior gold, once you make that first cut, it gets easier every time. You get that experience. You've been there. And that's what it's been like for me, you know, in my junior gold experience and making, you know, qualifying for a junior team, you know, throughout my youth career. And so, and again, now junior gold has changed. Again, it's still competitive. Like all that stuff is still the same, but now we have all these different divisions. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't want to say like prepares you better, but just with the different levels, I find that I think it offers obviously like growth, like it's more clear, like where are we at, where are we going type of thing. And I think it gives kids a better idea within their own age group. I don't want to say where they stand, but just kind of where they at, like where they're at, where can we grow? What are we doing good compared to our peers? Instead of being like 14 years old, bowling against a college bowler. And again, I think you have to get your ass kicked a little bit. And that's how we grow. But when you're 14 playing a college bowler, it you know, it can feel pretty bad. But when you're with your own peers, I think it just prepares you a little bit better and kind of gives you a clear idea, like, all right, where are we going? Like, what's the progression doing here? And so I think it's been very interesting seeing the different divisions compared to, like, you know, when I was on the scene. Yeah. And just the numbers, it's a humongous tournament. Now that I'm there for recruiting, I'm just like, goodness, this is something. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have it in Wisconsin next year, and I'm hoping to get over there. It's on the other side of the state, but I'm hoping to get over there to check it out, just to, you know, satisfy my own curiosity. So BSJ83 says, random fun fact. You were born on January 28th, 1996. Coincidentally, the same day that the Dallas Cowboys last won a Super Bowl. I don't like those days because, I remember those days well. Yeah. Like I know that fun fact because like it's something like we have a friend, like one of my best friends, Alex, if you're watching this, hi. But we have a really good friend. His name is Mike, and Mike is a giant like Cowboys fan. I remember we were talking about like because I think Alex was giving Mike a hard time. I'd be like, man, the Dallas Cowboys suck. Like they haven't won in a long time. And I'm like over here, like they haven't won since January 28th of 1996. and so I know that fun fact. And even like again, I feel like I'm calling my dad out. Dad, if you're watching this, hi too. But like in my baby book, that's written down. Like the Dallas, again, someone has to correct me, but I think the Dallas Cowboys were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
I think that is the other part of that fun fact. And so that's what my dad was watching. I was born at 9:05 p.m., so I was a night baby. And so that's what my dad was doing while my mom was dealing with me, and my dad was watching the Super Bowl. So and that's written down in my baby book. So yeah, that is a good fun fact. I was born on a Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday.
Good stuff. Yeah. And you can say I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. Right? All right. So you're talking about junior gold. You said there was some interaction with colleges. How does Nebraska come into the picture? Did you seek them out? Did they seek you out?
I think it was mutual, but I think I reached out first. And back in Aurora, we had a friend who, again, was very helpful. Like I don't want to call it a side hustle, but he did recruiting videos for a lot of the local kids. And when it came to be my turn, like I went to him, I was just like, hey, you've done this a couple times. Like I want to make a really good first impression. And what do I need to do? And so I made a recruiting video. It was a very brief like introduction of like me, my grades, stuff like that. And we did a bunch of different angles. So, front, behind, side, stuff like that. And then we actually filmed me doing like a game. And so I'd have to ask Coach Klump about it. I was just like, sorry for my really long, tedious recruiting video. But at the time, I thought it was very important to show me shooting spares, not just like strike shots. Like I wanted it to be like, hey, this is who I am as like a bowler. Like I want you to see like the nice shots, but I also want you to kind of see my process, like between shots, like what do my spare shots look like, stuff like that. So we did the different angles, showed me shooting spares and like in a game, didn't edit it, just here I am. This is it. And I sent that out and I got, and they reached out and they seemed equally interested in me as I was in them. So I think that's where it was mutual. And I'm sure maybe I was on their radar, maybe. Because again, at the time, like I didn't perform well at junior gold up until this time. And so, in Illinois, I think I was well known, but like nationally, like college, I wasn't exactly sure, where I stood. And so I was interested in them. They were interested in me. And they're like, hey, we're going to watch you at junior gold. And, and then we'll go from there. Well, and that's the year that I won. And I distinctly remember, and this is one of my favorite like coach drop stories, is I distinctly remember like after I won, Coach Drop congratulated me. He was very happy. He's just like, oh, you bowled so good, like good job. He's like, I'm happy that you won, but I kind of wish you didn't because now everybody knows who you are. I was like, oh, oops, like sorry. And so again, that's just his humor and stuff like that. And so, but that's really what it was. Like, again, I was on their radar and I was also in contact with like Vanderbilt. Like I was either going to go to Nebraska or Vanderbilt. Those were my two, top schools. And, went through the recruiting process, went on my visits and they were both like fabulous. Like I had such a great time on both visits. But when it came to my visit at Nebraska, it just felt like home. Yeah. And that's what I tell people. Like, my visit to Vanderbilt, the campus is beautiful. Like, just Nashville is a great town. The campus is beautiful. It's it's in an arboretum. Like they have like on campus, it has like every native plant and tree to Tennessee, and just it's great. And at the time, I wanted to go into biology, so it's like academically we're great. This campus is great. At the time they were building their lanes on facility. So it would have been one of those, like, if you come here, you'll see it eventually. And again, it was a great visit. The girls were nice. It was fun. But when I stepped on Nebraska's campus, you just know it when you feel it. And I felt it. Like I knew that Coach Straub and Coach Klimpa wanted me on the team. Like they verbally said so, but I could just feel it that they want me here. This feels like home. The girls feel like home. And, there's a saying, there's no place like Nebraska. And I think that's true. But again, in the athletic standpoint, like they respect us. They treat us like athletes. And just like the people are just so polite, so nice. And it just gives you a great sense of community. Like when we're all at Memorial Stadium for a football game, so again, sports bring people together. Like I feel like we know that, but until you're in a stadium, especially when you get to like the collegiate and like professional level, like when you're in a stadium with other people rooting for the same team, there's just a connection there. And again, I think Nebraska does it different in a way, like just it's electrifying. Like those games are fun and we're all on the same side. And I just love that. Like when on my visit, they took me to a football game and the energy was just amazing. And I loved it. And I was just like, I have to be here. Yeah. Like I want to feel this feeling all the time. Like I need to be here. And then that's where I went. That's, where the story goes. And I had a great time and I came back. And I think, and again, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's just, even though I no longer play, but I'm an assistant, I'm still a part of that. Like, I still love the feeling that I have when I walk into our facility, when I walk into the stadium, when I go to games, when I'm a part of the Nebraska community. I just love being a part of it. It just feels like home.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so BSJ83 says it's not Julia's fault the Cowboys suck. It's the general manager's fault. I think I know who he's referring to there. K Forrester 88 says Queen Julia, all hail.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So I love asking the question when we're talking about Nebraska, because I bowled for a couple of state schools around here, and we'd go to national tournaments, and I'd look a pair over and see Coach Straub. It was actually more like this, but what's he like?
Right.
What is he like? He seems so gruff. He seems so intimidating, but I know that his players rave about him, and there must have been something there if you met him beforehand, you went through the recruiting process, and you ended up there.
Right. And this is something that like Coach Straub would talk about. It's the height, like the way that he's perceived, like that gruffness that you're talking about. It's purely the height, and not like, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. It's not like he hated being that tall, but there's times where like, he just like be like, man, being this tall is hard. I think that's just the way his presence just ended up being portrayed. And he's really, again, he's a really nice guy. He's funny. Like, he likes to crack jokes. He tries to be lighthearted. He likes to use silly words. And like, I don't want to say silly words, but like, he's a wordsmith. Like, he loves to use words that like nobody uses. Nobody would ever use. And it just it always made the conversation like interesting and lighthearted. And that's just who he is as a person. Like, he's kind, and he just really loved bowling. Like, he's just one of those people that was just, again, around for bowling for so long and dedicated his entire life to bowling. And I think that showed in the program. Like, everything he did was for Nebraska. Like, he made his decisions, not necessarily what was best for Nebraska, but what he thought was best for bowling.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, no. And I loved it. Like, him and I had a good relationship. And again, like, as a head coach, there's going to be moments where it's not fun and it's not nice, and he has to do his job, because there's moments where I wasn't doing my job, or there's times where I was being stubborn. And again, I'm a 19-year-old kid. Like, who did I think I was? But again, like, I feel like he really helped me grow into a person, whether that be how to communicate, how to stand up for myself, how to navigate conflict, and essentially being like a dad away from home. There's been times where like I would go in his office and be like, hey, I'm going through this. Like, this is hard. Like, and he would just like listen And so those are a lot of the moments that I had with Coach Straub. And again, there's times where he had to, he'd have to kind of kick our butts a little bit, because at the end of the day, we're a sport and we're in the business of winning, and sometimes he can't always be the nice guy. That's just not how it works. But yeah, it's just, I knew he cared about me. I knew he cared about the program, and he dedicated his life to it. And I think it really shows. And I have a lot of respect for him. And it was a good relationship. It was really, I had a great time. I thought it was great.
That's great. Yeah. BSJ83. Julia mentioned in an earlier podcast when Coach Straub gave her some snacks when she's hungry. Seems like he's a big teddy bear.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like he was so kind. And this is what I'm talking about, like using funny words. And here's the other thing about Coach Straub that that I don't think I appreciated at the time, but as an adult, I really appreciated is that Coach Straub was very unapologetic about him and like who he was. And he, again, the way that he dressed, like he always, again, he was another person that would have kind of like crazy shoes and crazy pant, like color, like combos. There's times where he was not always wearing Nebraska colors. Like, if I'm being honest with you, he was wearing Adidas stuff. Like he was wearing like the right, like apparel, but like, again, and that's how he expressed himself. And he would wear like these different like fedoras and hats. And he was just always unapologetically like him. And another thing is that when we would go to tournaments, like nowadays, like I carry a backpack, like at tournaments, like other coaches will carry a backpack or like some type of thing. Coach Straub carried an attaché. So, and if you know what if you don't know what an attaché is, it's not quite a briefcase, but it's essentially a compact, small briefcase. And that is what the man traveled in. But like, I think it took me a year to finally work up the courage to be like, what is in your attaché? What? Because Coach Klempa has all the paperwork. Like Coach Klempa has all the important things. So what do you keep in this attaché? And he's like, oh, well, let me show you. And he opened it up, and there was a book and a baggie of snacks. And that's it. That was the only thing in this attaché. And I'm like, so you're telling me that you carry around this paperback book and a baggie of snacks that your wife made you the night before? And he's like, yeah. And so, and then from then on, because again, some tournaments we don't have time to get lunch. And so if I was hungry, yeah, correct, I would go to Coach Straub and I was just like, can I have some of Kim's trail mix, please?
Yeah.
And he would give it to me. He would give up his snacks for me when I asked. So yes, that is the type of person that Coach Straub is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cheryl Smith says you are her favorite female bowler.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that.
It's got to be good to hear. Jamie says, of the latest releases, what is your current ball of choice?
Good question. It releases in a couple days, but I would have to say that Summit Ascent is very, very nice. Like I drilled it in Detroit. Like we went through the practice session, or no, trying to remember. No, I was driving like on my way to Detroit, and the ball reps text us like, "Hey, we're gonna have the new Summit Ascent, and we're gonna have the Optimum Idle Pro. Like, do you want it?" And I was just like, "Yeah, why not?" Like, yeah, like I would like it. And so we drilled it up, went through the practice session, and it looked great. And then on that first pattern where I made that cut, like that's predominantly like what I threw. And so I would say the Summit Ascent is probably one of my favorite ones. And if not that one, the Ion Pro, that one is very nice. I drilled that up at the Lucy. And so again, that one's been out for a bit. So I'm a little late to the game on that one, and I apologize, but I drilled it for the Lucy, and I threw it like 90% of the time, and Mitch and I made the cut, and that's the ball I threw the most. So I would say that Ion Pro and the Summit Ascent, I would say are my favorite releases as of right now.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to try and keep things going here because I feel like I'm running behind. I'm not purposely trying to keep you from the Cubs game, but that probably seems like the case because I'm a Brewers guy.
No, we're good.
No, Liz, told me about your arrival on campus because you get there in 2015, and wow, what a time to get to Nebraska. She says that you were super talented before you got there, but you progressed even more, and it was not surprising to her your success through the years, as you're a hard worker, you're smart, you know how to implicate things on the lanes. She said that team in 2015 was great. She said it was stacked. We won many tournaments that year. It was a great feeling to put a cherry on top of that season after winning a ton of tournaments. And that culminates in a national championship. It must have been like, wow, I just got here and look at this run we're on, right?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Like for that to be my first, like my freshman year, I was very grateful to have that experience and to have Liz's leadership. Like I think I became the anchor that I was because I got to see Liz in action. Like Liz is phenomenal. Like I want to say always because she's a human being too. But like she made her shots. Like she is clutch. And I got to experience that firsthand. And I got to set her up as a freshman, which I thought was crazy. At the time, I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to set up Liz. But it was great. Like for that to be to be the trajectory, like my first year, I thought was incredible. And to bowl on the TV show and to win that national championship, I stoned 2 8-pins on TV. So that was fun. But again, luckily Liz did her job. So I didn't need to strike. I needed to pick up my spare. But yeah, it was incredible. Like it was a blur, but like a good blur. And it was just a really good experience. And I'm very grateful that that's the way that I got to start off my collegiate career. I think it really set the tone for my expectations and the type of team that I wanted to help lead once Liz and Andrea and the girls that I looked up to, graduated and moved on.
Yeah. You were the runner-up at ISC that year too. And tell us how that all worked out, logistically. Was the ISC before the ITC or was it team first and then singles?
It was after. So Nebraska doesn't do the ITCs. So I qualified as an individual and I competed as an individual.
Gotcha.
And so we did the national. Well, I'm trying to remember. So I did sectional. So somewhere in the season. So we have our season, and then qualifying is like in March, I believe. And so I qualified, and then in April we had our national championship, and then. Luckily, it was in Wichita that year, so I could easily drive. Coach Straub actually drove me because I didn't have a car. So Coach Straub, we went on a little road trip together. So Coach Straub took me to ISCs and got to do that. And so I think I'm very grateful for that experience. Like I think I was up, when you're up here, like I guess just bowl whatever you can because I feel like I was on top of my game. And that was a really great experience. And again, another opportunity to compete on TV and have a good experience, and Emily Eckhoff bowled phenomenal. Like she, and again, it's when it's twice, I think it's crazy, back to back. But yeah, it just was a really great freshman year. Like I don't think I could have asked for better opportunities than the ones that I got. And, and I like to think that I took advantage of them to the best of my ability. So it was definitely a good time.
Yeah. I'm assuming, just because I don't know this to be true, but you must have been in that time frame where Coach Straub left the program, right? And Coach Klempa took over?
Yeah, I graduated. So I bowled from 2014 to 2018. So I, went through my normal eligibility stuff. I didn't redshirt, anything like that. I was a true freshman. So once my 4 years were up, I was done bowling, but it took me 5 years to complete my degree. So I was still like around, like I was still like kind of around the girls, but trying to keep my space. I was like, all right, this is your team now. Like I'm around, but like, ignore me. Like this is your deal now. I'm out. And in 2019, I graduated. I went on tour. I moved back home. And in 2021, not too long, if I have my dates correct, like not too long after I won Queens, Coach Klempa called me up and, He's like, hey, I want to talk to you. And I was at practice. I missed this phone call. And I called him back and I was like, hey, like, I'm sorry I missed your call. What's up? And essentially said like, hey, I need an assistant and you're on my list. What do you think? And I was like blown away because I was just like, and I was just like, I was part-time coaching at a local school in Elgin, Judson University, and trying to get experience because I was kind of trying to decide is like, do I want to get into coaching? Like what direction do I want to go in? And I told him that. I was just like, hey man, I don't have a lot of experience. And like, I hope you know that. So I'm not that, again, I would love to do this with you, but like, I just want you to know like what you're getting into. And he's just like, yeah, I know. And that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that. You know, the program and you know, the culture, and that's what's important to me. And anything, and he was so horrible. Makes me laugh. He's like, anything that you're deficient in, I will teach you. We will work on it together. Don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, well. And so I said, let me think about it. Like, that was it. I didn't just say like, yes, like, let me hop on the next flight. But again, I knew in my heart that the answer was yes. But again, that's a big life change. That's moving away from my parents, moving away from the significant other that I had at the time, you know, because I don't think a lot of people know this, but you know, me and that person dated for 8 years, and we were looking at engagement rings. We were ring shopping. And you know, this was not in the part of the plan, I guess I should say. And that's what I'm talking about. Like when I said earlier, life happens, things change, you know, unexpected things happen, unexpected opportunities happen. And so, but anyway, I knew in my heart that this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to take this opportunity. And I had to figure some stuff out. But you know, I called Coach Klempa, you know, not too long after he offered it, and I was like, yeah, I want to be your assistant.
Yeah.
And I came back.
Cool. So, you know, I had to, of course, reach out to him and ask, you know, what does she bring, you know, to the program? And the first thing he mentioned was that, you know, JB, which is you, is a draw for recruits because you're a recognizable star from the PWBA circuit and as an accomplished player in general. I guess, do you see yourself that way as someone who, you know, may be able to help in the recruiting game as much as maybe what you do with the players who are already there?
Sometimes, like, to be honest with you, like, I go back and forth because like I'm not naive to think that like, oh, I'm nobody, like I haven't done anything, like I have some titles, I won a major, like I do have accomplishments, or collegiately, just, you know, if you have to do, you know, I don't think it takes very long to find my name, whether in youth stuff or like collegiately. And so I think it is a draw. I feel like, you know, girls can, you know, look at, you know, PWA tournaments and see my name and see how I'm doing, and, you know, and put two and two together. And so I think it is a draw for girls to potentially have the opportunity to be around somebody that is going through something that they themselves are striving to do in the future. There's so many collegiate girls that I hear that want to go on tour. That's what they're striving for. Like when I was in college, the tour didn't come back yet. Yeah. And so when I went into college, it was just like, all right, we're here to get a degree, and I would like to bowl after college, whether that be in sweepers or whatever that looks like, in whatever capacity. But then my sophomore year is when we got the announcement that the tour was coming back, and I was just like, oh, this changes everything. Yeah. Like, again, we're still here to get a degree. Like, that's still ultimately like why we're here. But like that changed my plans a little bit. And so now that the tour, we're going on our 10th anniversary, which is super exciting. That is amazing. And that's going to be so incredible when we get to that milestone. But again, there's so many girls in college that's the direction they want to go in. And I like to think that I can provide that perspective on just what that looks like. And again, another kind of reason for the honesty of my video is just like, I don't want to like sugarcoat that, like, you know, it's perfect all the time and it's great. It's like, these are some real struggles that that arise and happen. And again, just being honest about that.
Yeah. So the part about recruiting was just the start of what he had to tell me. He also said that you bring a wealth of knowledge regarding today's game, including lane play adjustments and bowling ball technology. He said you have a great insight and can troubleshoot a player's game execution and their equipment choices. He says she helps me to develop plans for how to help our players improve in all areas of their game. JB has great input into the planning of practices and what the next move is at any point to help the team reach their goals and continue improving. He says that you also serve as a big sister to several of the women on the team and that you went through the program and have experienced many of the same challenges and all that good stuff that the current women face as part of adjusting to the program and trying to succeed. He says that is very helpful, that you can serve as someone the athletes can confide in and get advice, and just that you're easy to talk to. And people like you. He calls you a people person and says that you also help drill all the storm equipment that you use through the season, which is helpful to him as well. That's a lot for someone who came in thinking, maybe I don't have that much experience.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think that was just like the naive part of me. Because again, I was just thinking about like, man, like I don't know anything about coaching. Like, and again, and that's me like thinking in the small window. And that's where Coach Klemp has been a great mentor. He's been able to show me like, hey, it's more than that. It's more than just like, yeah, the lane play is important and all the like the technical stuff is important, but there is an aspect of, again, culture, community, just team and stuff like that. And, I feel like I've been able to grow as a person and as a coach, just being around, the team. Like I'm an only child. Like I have half siblings, but there's an age gap there to where I essentially grew up like on my own. And so to have kind of, having like a sisterhood, that like going to college was like my first experience of having like a kind of like sisterhood and community that way with just women. And being able to come back as an assistant coach and to be able to still continue to foster that kind of environment, that kind of like sisterhood, where it's just like, yes, we're here to win. And, that's part of my job description now is to be a coach and help you guys win. But there's more than that. Like I'm here to make sure that you're healthy and happy and all these other, like, they're not tiny things, but they're more like nuanced, and being able to, again, provide that perspective of, and again, I think it's just nice. Again, Coach Klempa, again, he only has sons. I joke with him. I was just like, man, you like, if you were a girl dad, like I don't know. You'd be the same person, but like, man, if you were a girl dad, because like the way I see you interact with the girls, I was just like, man, like, I'm so curious to be like, what would you be like if you had a daughter? Okay. And so, but anyway, just again, fostering that like relationship is like, we're here for you. And it's just been a wonderful experience for me to be able to be there for them in that capacity and kind of being that big sister, or again, as I get older, kind of maybe being more in like a mom position, just to be someone that's there for you away from home and to help you succeed in your goals, whether they're athletically, academically, emotionally, physically. And it's really an honor for me to be a part of, that journey and to essentially watch them grow up. Like when I was on the team, like I said, Coach Klempa and Coach Straub are like my second dads, and they watched me grow up. And now I'm on the other side. Now I'm watching them grow up. And it's kind of crazy. Like, for example, like Jillian Martin, she's a junior now. She just turned 20. Like, I knew her before like college. And so like, I knew the 16-year-old version of her. And now to see her be a junior and go through that, like, it's just crazy. And like all the other girls, like, or when I was a senior, when I left, there was girls coming in as a freshman. When I took the coaching position, they were graduating. And so like I went full circle with those girls. And one of them that graduated when I came in, or as a coach, she's getting married in December. She sent me a save the date. And that's just cool. Like it's just kind of crazy how life works out that way. And I'm just so blessed to be able to, again, be a part of that. And it's amazing. Collegiate bowling is just something incredibly special.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful to have been a part of it and to continue to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I feel like that's true, especially to those of us who have been in it, because there's a difference, being from the outside and looking in. So I got to ask, I mean, you've reached some of the highest highs as a player, but you've also got these young ladies who are accomplishing things all the time. I don't want to say what's better, but maybe what's the difference in how you feel inside when something like that happens to you as a player versus when something like that happens for your team?
Right. Like me as a player, I find, and maybe this is something that I have to get better at, but like I find as a player, like when I find success or like when I win, I'm over it very quickly. And I feel like I need to learn how to like let it sink in and like enjoy those moments. But just the way that I know myself is that those wins, they're like, I'm happy in the moment, but like once it's done, she's like, all right, next one, let's go. Like, let's keep this train rolling.
Yeah.
And so, but when it comes to the girls, like I find it much easier to be in that moment and helping them like enjoy it. And if anything, I think, I don't want to say I enjoy my own success, but there's a part of me that thinks I enjoy seeing them succeed in that capacity, like a little bit more than I would see it for myself. And just because like I know how hard they work and going through the lows with them and the frustrations with them. And so the fact that I have no control over like the outcome, like because sometimes the girls have asked me, is it like, are you more nervous as a coach or as a player? Like which one, like just kind of like, what are my thoughts being on both sides? And I was just like, I'm much more nervous as a coach than I was as a player. Like as a player, like I feel like I had the mentality of like, passing the ball type of thing. Like if there's a shot that needed to be made, like I enjoyed those moments like as a player. And so I didn't get nervous. Whereas like in the back, I trust Jillian and, whoever our future anchors are going to be. But there's moments where I'm just like, I can't do anything. Like I can't do anything. I can just give her the best information I can, but I can't do anything. Yeah. And so when they do have those accomplishments, I find myself being much more happy to see them succeed. Because again, like I don't want to say like I've been there, done that, but like my time happened, and so to see some of these girls, not that it's their first time or experience with success, but to do it in a team aspect in a collegiate setting, like I said, it's different. It just feels different as a player and then as a coach to see that success, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And that's a cool thing when, their success becomes yours, and that makes it not be such a job, right? BSJ83 says, being on Team USA, how is it determined what events a member gets to bowl in?
So from my understanding, I think the process has changed a little bit. And again, I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth. And so it's kind of, I don't want to say like a point system, but they're looking at like different events that we bowl in through the year, and they're kind of like not ranked or like rated, but they're going more that way. So it's not, because I mean, I think unfortunately there's been this like stigma or opinion that it's just like, oh, there's favorites and they just pick this person or they just pick that person. Well, that's not really the case. And so I think they're trying to move more towards numbers and like not formulas, but just kind of more trying to be, again, what events did they bowl, how'd they do, and kind of they're, kind of putting it all in a spreadsheet and looking at it that way. And so that's about as far as I'll go. I don't, again, like as athletes, they're finally letting us know like what the process is like and being more like, privy to that. And so, but still, I don't have all the information. So that's the best I can do for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. And Brent Prentice in the chat says, love when you come to Cedarvale. He calls you the new Donna Adamek. That's a great comp, I think.
No, right. Like when he told me that for the first time, I was just like, oh my gosh, you did not just call me that. Like you did not just compare me to Donna. I mean, and right. And like, and here's the thing. Like I actually met Donna for the first time last year. at a PWBA Hall of Fame, ceremony that we do every year. And I finally met her. Like, we were in Vegas, and so it's during Queens, and so we had the ceremony, and I got to meet her. And because they did a little special, who do you look up to? And once Brent said that, I always knew Donna, but when I went back home and I found old telecasts, I kind of studied her more. I went through this rabbit hole of looking at a bunch of older telecasts and becoming obsessed with the previous PWBA bowlers, the LPBT, and just becoming obsessed with it. And and I said I looked up to Donna, to be someone of my stature. I'm 4'11" for people who do not know or have not stood next to me, but I'm 4'11", and so I'm not particularly very big. And so there's things that's something I had to implement in my game as I got older. As I got older, I got stronger, stuff like that. But I had to make sure that I used my legs, the best that I could. But anyway, so I met her, and I was just man, I really look up to you. It's an honor to meet you, all that. And to my disbelief, when I bowled the next day, for the first round of Queens, she was still there. She watched me bowl, and I bowled good. So it's oh, thank goodness. And so, but that was just so amazing for me, for Donna to stand back there. And she friended me on Facebook. Oh my God. Even to this day, I think about it. I was oh, Donna Adamak, friended me on Facebook. So that was such a good moment for me. So yes, thank you, Brett, for bringing that up, because that was a very special moment for me. That was very, very cool to meet her and to have that moment with her and be Facebook friends.
That's awesome. No, I love that. Well, like I said, we're getting a little later than I usually like to get, so I'm going to try and wrap this thing up. But first, we got to do this.
Let's go off the sheet. Challenge a bowler to appear on a future episode.
I would like to challenge Will Madison.
I would say Diana Zavulova.
The better Russo, Lauren Russo.
We're looking for anyone who has a passion for the sport and a unique story to tell.
All right, Julia, so you know the parameters: passion for the sport, unique story to tell. Who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
I would like to challenge Brianna Andrews. She is one of the sweetest, kindest persons that people that you'll ever meet. And she's so well spoken. If you find her posts on Facebook, she does a very good, again, she's just very well spoken to her experience. And we talked about earlier, with my videos and authenticity, she's very honest about that journey. And again, Bri has, been successful in her own right, but, she's striving to win her first title. And so she's going through it. Again, I've won my titles, and, and not, our struggles are similar, but it's one thing where you're actively listening to someone's story who's trying to capture their first title. And so, and she is such a great advocate for the sport. And I think she would offer such an amazing perspective on just her experience, where she comes from, where she's at, and where she's looking to go and how. And again, those are the stories that I want to hear from people, and I think are very important, is, people with her perspective. And I think she'll offer an amazing perspective. And so that's who I would like to see. I think Bri would be very great.
All right, Brianna, if you see this and you're interested in taking Julia up on her challenge, let me know. Come find me, Andrew Pfeffer on Facebook, or bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com in email, and we will make that happen. Best last name in the sport, bar none. I mean, they don't get any better than that, right? Mark says it's being more than a coach. It's aiding the athletes along their life's journey as they at the same time aid her along this chapter of her journey. And yeah, there's kind of parallels there, aren't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. My job is to be there for them, but part of being on a team, I'm part of the team. The girls are very supportive, and they're there for me too. We're there for each other. And, and again, I'm not that far removed from like the girls, you know. Yeah, I'm only 28. It wasn't, I mean, it's only, I guess, 5 years since I've been out of college. And so, but yeah, a lot of those struggles are similar. And so kind of both ways, it's like, you know, I can help them and they can help me. And I think that's part of being a team and being a community, is to help each other go through those struggles. You know, life is not linear. Like we, you know, there's going to be times where, you know, I'll find my footing again and it'll be great. But there might be a time where I find myself kind of in this place, and, you know, I will rely on the girls. And I do, like, my job really fulfills me with purpose. Like, when every time I come home to Lincoln, like earlier in the season when I was feeling my worst and like wanting to quit, every time I came back to Lincoln, like my mood instantly like lifted. Like I felt like I had purpose, and that I don't want to say had worth, but I felt just better. Like the girls give that to me. Like they give me life basically. And so even though like they weren't here during the summer, like I'm doing things to prepare for them. I'm excited to see them again. And I don't want to say that's what kept me going, but just the idea of like, okay, we're here at work, we're getting things done. The girls will be here soon and we can start this amazing season and it's going to be great. And that's kind of where my brain was. And I'm very grateful that, you know, I have them in my life, you know, very grateful.
And that's a really cool thing, you know, to hear about and to see. And of course, best of luck to you and the ladies in this upcoming season. And thank you so much for the time and closing out season 4 with us here on the show.
Oh, thank you. It was an honor to be here and kind of talk about just kind of a myriad of things. And I think it's important, like, again, what you do to share stories. Like, I think that's important and the great work, and you do a fabulous job. And so thank you for, you know, giving me the opportunity to share my story a little bit. It means a lot.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And with that, we're going to give Julia a chance to go watch her Cubbies. I know that's important. I don't want to take you away from the game any longer. But thanks to all of you for joining us. And we will see you again for the premiere of season 5.
Thank you for watching Bowling with the Fef. Pound the like button and subscribe button. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it's free. Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet. Raise your snack standards. Email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com with questions or to appear on the show. You can also reach out on your favorite social media platform.